The penultimate episode of Paradise Season 2 just delivered the most explosive, nerve-shredding hour of television the show has ever produced. And if you thought Season 1 knew how to turn the screws before a finale, Episode 7 of this season just raised the stakes so high that the ceiling is nowhere in sight. Titled, The Final Countdown, this episode did exactly what its name promised. On the surface, the title referred to the 6 years ago timeline when the bunker was nearing completion and the clock was ticking toward an entirely new chapter for the people inside it. But beneath that layer, the countdown was something far more personal, far more devastating, and far more loaded with meaning. It was the countdown to the moment Sinatra came face to face with her son Dylan for the first time since she believed he was dead. Sinatra's arc in this episode was, without question, the most emotionally gripping thread woven through the entire runtime. When the episode opened, she was visibly diminished. The grey, muted outfit she wore spoke volumes before a single word left her mouth. This was not the commanding, iron-willed figure viewers have come to both fear and admire across 2 seasons. This was a woman hollowed out by grief, moving through the motions of leadership while privately coming apart at the seams. And then, in the final moments, everything shifted. She walked into the secret room. She put on the red suit. The color alone carried its own language power. Strength, reclamation, and the smile that crossed her face confirmed what her eyes had already given away. Something had changed. Something had worked. The breadcrumbs pointing to Link being Dylan had been scattered across the season in a way that only becomes fully visible when laid out together. Dylan would have been 26 years old had he survived. Link, in the present day, is 26 years old. Then there was the moment that sealed it. As Link left the bunker, Giga called him Dylan. Not a slip of the tongue. Not an accident. A confirmation. The question that immediately followed was a natural one. How could he still be alive? How does a person who died years ago walk back into their mother's world wearing a different name? The answer likely lives inside Project Alex, which has slowly emerged as one of the most ambitious and intellectually daring concepts the show has ever introduced. The working theory, and one that the episode strongly supports, is that Alex is not a person. Alex is a piece of artificial intelligence, a supercomputer with the extraordinary capability of sending messages backward through time in order to alter the future. The clearest evidence of this came when Sinatra returned home in a state of barely contained joy and said to her husband, plainly and with total certainty, "It worked. I think it worked." That line, quiet as it was, reoriented everything. If Alex allowed her to send a message to her past self, she could have intervened in whatever medical situation took Dylan from her in the first place. And if changing the past created an alternative timeline, Dylan could have survived, grown up, and somehow found his way here. His nickname Link, a reference to the famously adventurous video game character, carries its own thematic weight. He is, in every sense, an explorer, possibly through time itself. There is another detail in the episode that deepens this theory considerably. During his conversation with Sinatra, Link referenced Star Wars, specifically the narrative of a villain who turns out to be the parent of the hero. He even called Sinatra his Darth Vader. In a show that treats every line of dialogue as intentional, this was not a casual pop culture moment. It was Link, consciously or not, circling the truth of who he is and who she is to him. The nosebleeds scattered across this episode reinforce the same idea. Sinatra had one. Link had one. And Xavier experienced one during a vision where Link appeared walking through a dreamlike space. Earlier in the season, Billy had a nosebleed right after killing Henry, which appeared to trigger some kind of ripple effect. The pattern suggests that whenever the timeline is disturbed, whenever someone interacts with a version of events that should not exist, the body registers it. Link should not be in this timeline at all. His very presence here is a fracture, and the nosebleeds are the physical evidence of that fracture spreading. Sinatra's empire, meanwhile, is collapsing from every direction at once. Cal Bradford offered what turned out to be the most quietly devastating monologue of the episode when he laid out, with the precision of a historian and the weariness of someone who has seen this pattern before, How every empire in human history eventually falls not always from external attack, but from internal rot. He compared it to sports dynasties, to institutions that grow too comfortable with their own permanence. And then he linked it directly to the bunker. The dramatic irony Sinatra carries is the same irony the Titanic carried. It was called unsinkable. The bunker was built to be an unassailable refuge. And now it is simultaneously being starved of oxygen from the inside and targeted for assault from the outside. Link is preparing his militia to strike the bunker, and his motivations are layered. He wants the nuclear reactor. He wants Project Alex. His defensiveness about Sinatra, his insistence that she built it when she in fact stole it from Henry, and his established history as Henry's protege all connect to a deeper investment in what Alex represents. Both Link and Sinatra appear to want the same ultimate outcome, to send a message far enough into the past that the world never reaches the point of devastation that made the bunker necessary in the first place. When the 50 doled, bunker doors opened briefly, and Sinatra felt the heat of the sun on her skin, something she had longed for since the moment she held baby Calvin. It felt like confirmation. She is not only trying to save her son, she is trying to save the world from a version of itself that she helped create. The final line of the episode, "Hi." Alex landed with the quiet certainty of a door finally swinging open. The way Sinatra said it made clear she was not greeting a person. She was addressing a system. Something built, not born. The show has always framed Alex as a who rather than a what. And the reveal that this has been the wrong question all along carries enormous implications for the finale. Xavier and Terry's reunion provided the episode's most intimate emotional counterweight. After receiving a message from Gary using Bean as leverage, his last attempt to pull Terry back, Xavier and Terry found each other in a moment that required no grand gestures. A quiet embrace. A small compliment about her hair. The understated nature of their reunion made it land harder than any dramatic confrontation could have. Gary's manipulation of the situation led to a tense standoff. Made more uncomfortable by his earlier story about being a lifeguard and the danger of letting a drowning person pull you under. It felt like foreshadowing for something violent. Instead, what played out was the inverse. Terry extended herself, metaphorically and literally, to keep Gary from going under. The 3 worst years in recorded history had given Gary something he never had before: purpose, community, a sense of belonging. Watching them walk away while he stood alone in the distance was one of those rare television moments where sympathy arrives for someone you have not forgiven and do not intend to. The Jeremy and Robinson storyline was the episode's softest spot. Their plan to destroy the oxygen tank and trigger the bunker's failsafe was sound in theory, but the leadership's decision to initiate a lockdown overrode the protocol entirely and sent the system into meltdown. Robinson's last-minute betrayal of Jeremy felt more like a plot device than a genuine character choice. Regardless, the damage is done, the bunker is suffocating, the doors are sealed, and the only realistic path to saving everyone inside may now run straight through Link's militia. Jane's death, by contrast, landed with real weight. She went after Gabby without orders, a fatal deviation for someone who only functions within the boundaries of direct command. Feeling publicly humiliated at the emergency meeting, she surveilled Gabby on her own initiative and walked straight into a trap she never saw coming. Gabby outthought her completely, and there is something fitting, even poetic, about a psychologist's mind dismantling an assassin's body. Whether this death was always written into the timeline or represents a new deviation is a question the finale will have to answer. Episode 7 was the best hour Paradise has produced in 2 seasons. Every storyline operated on the same emotional frequency: tense, intimate, and loaded with consequence, which made each transition feel seamless rather than jarring. Dan Fogelman writes characters who carry genuine moral weight, people you love, resent, and ache for all at once. And this episode had all of that in full. The finale now has everything it needs to be extraordinary. What do you think is Link really, Dylan? And if Alex can rewrite the past, what does that mean for everyone who has already died in this timeline? Drop your theories in the comments below. And if you found this breakdown useful, hit that like button and subscribe so you do not miss the full finale breakdown the moment it drops.